Hey guys, it's Sellet again, and yeah, I've been playing a lot of One Piece lately. Go figure. But I got a different video in mind today. I did a starter deck tier list not that long ago on the channel. What we're going to talk about today is specifically the different decks in OP17 and where they fit on said tier list. The different tiers are as follows. We have the best decks in format because I feel this upcoming format does not have really a best deck in the room, but rather subsequent decks that are going to outperform others in various ways. Will top major events ones. They'll obviously have an appearance, and they'll get like top 8, top 4, maybe even top 16. These are what you're going to see recurring throughout, but they might struggle to end up winning an event. The can top is they're still performing, but they might make something like top 32, top 64, so on and so forth. Rogue it's a good deck, but it needs specific matchups, and if it doesn't hit them, it crumbles, and you're going to have a bad run. Sometimes that just happens in One Piece where you're really lucky you hit all your good matchups, and all of a sudden you are a topping deck list. And in other times you hit all your bad matchups and you go X3 scrub. It is what it is. This game is very inconsistent in that regard. And my favorite tier is Local Legend / People's Champ. This is your pet deck. You break it out at locals every so often just because you want to be that guy. All right, we all get it. We all have a deck that we play. We know it's not good, but we're the people's champ. We got to show out every now and then. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is Mihawk. Mihawk is easily one of the best decks in the format, hands down. The fact that it has access to the 10-cost Shanks, which has Rush, rest the board, plus its leader effect to be able to restand up to 3 to be able to play Luna right after. This deck is stupid ignorant right now. It's really good. I don't think it's as strong as people claim it is in terms of being super best deck in format. Like, I don't know. I feel as if it could go in will top major events, OP17, because we're going to see a lot of representation from this leader, but I'm not so sure that just pumping out a bunch of 10-cost Shanks equals GG shake my hand. It's probably one of those decks that's going to take a little bit of time to solve further, but I could easily see it being one of the best decks in format as well. Red Ace. I think this is one of the best decks in format, but we'll just put it in will top major events. This deck is disgusting, okay? You have a set curve, and it is one of the easier decks to play in this game, as I, probably have said in the previous video. If not, this will be the first time I mention it. Your curve is insanely strong going second. It's set in stone pretty much. Your second turn, play 4-cost Luffy, play a 6-cost on 6, 8-cost Newgate on 8, and then if your opponent has a 10-cost on board, you could actually play something like the 10-cost Newgate that comes out in OP17 that makes your leader an 8k base power, and the Newgate from this last set, OP16, that 8 cost gives you a 2000 power bump. Like, it's not just base power, so you could hit for like 10k double attack. It's stupid. Like, the deck's just ignorant, and it gives everything that it plays out rush, provided that's an 8k or higher. It's just gonna be good. Like, it's a standard red deck that's just gonna steamroll a lot of different things. Kaido, I think Kaido can top events. I don't know if he will top major events. The thing with Kaido is the name of the game plan is to get out your 6-cost king from EBO 4, and you're going to try to get to 10 Dawn as quickly as possible. So you're running all these ramp options in the form of 3-cost blocker Yamato. Maybe you even play the new Basil Hawkins that comes out in OP17, and it's all right. You play your 10-cost blocker Kaidos, you play your 10-cost removal Kaidos, and it seems like a pretty decent strategy to go as tall as possible. I'm not so sure that it's going to be super good. Maybe into the meta that's upcoming, like all these different leaders, he's got decent matchups, but he's not super oppressive or anything by any stretch of the imagination. Shanks, I think can top. He's not super great right now. The problem with Shanks is he's suffering from the Mihawk effect, because when you go into the Mihawk matchup, you're already at a disadvantage being a slash type leader, so you're a 6k base as the Mihawk player going up against Shanks. But the other thing is that Mihawk does everything that Shanks wants to do, but better. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but they can abuse the 10 cost Rush Shanks better. They can abuse Luna better. They can abuse pretty much every green thing better in Mihawk. So maybe if they do like a electrical Luna ban, we could see Shanks doing a bit better. But until then, I think Shanks is taking a bit of a backseat. Until then, Black Luffy. Black Luffy is good. I think this is one of the better decks to have come out from Bandai in a while, especially considering that this set has a lot of good leaders that are not super oppressive, but they're not super dog water either. Black Luffy has cost manipulation in his 6 cost Loki, and all of the giants in the deck versus all of the Straw Hats, gain little cost bumps, but they also gain power boosts whenever you have something that's a 12 cost or higher on board. And this creates a really interesting synergistic strategy in the form of the Elbaf package. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk about Elbaf Sabo or Elbow or Elfbo or whatever the hell you want to call this guy. I don't like this deck personally because it's not Revel Army themed, and I feel like my boy Sabo has gotten done dirty so many times at this point that he just runs everything that isn't his particular package, and it's getting annoying fast. But the deck is good, right alongside Black Luffy. It has access to some red stuff that Luffy doesn't, but they're both 5 life leads. And to be honest, Sabo might even abuse Luffy's package a bit better than he does. And that's kind of sad to say, in all honesty. So both of these decks, they're right around the same level for me. If we were talking about, Luffy going up against a Sabo leader, they're probably even in that regard, with Sabo having a slight advantage. I just feel that these decks are really potent. They're gonna have their time in the limelight. With Luffy, I think having some longevity. And then there was Edward Newgate. I don't think Edward Newgate is going to have such a strong showcase in this particular meta. He's gonna have a blip in the radar because it's Whitebeard Pirates theme. It's just that Red Ace does everything he wants to do, but better, and it's uninspiring to see a leader effect basically copy Red Ace, but for double the amount of counter power, right? Because every card in your hand is potentially a Rad Beam, plus you have cards that bump your leader up to an 8k base, which, again, Red Ace does that better, and it's just, I don't know. They could have done a little bit more to make this deck interesting. And they did try to leader lock a few different cards in this deck, such as the Jozu. Jozu is good as a 6 cost in this deck, but I don't think it's going to be enough right now. You could see Newgate every so often. I wouldn't hold my breath. Lin Lin. Lin Lin can definitely hit into the Will Top major events. And it's not because the deck is particularly good. So unfortunately in One Piece we have really odd time rules that really need to be updated to include double losses. This is something that was done in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I think is pretty much healthy for the game, because what happens right now is the player who is playing yellow has every incentive to slow play. For the whole 35 minutes, just take up to a minute for every action in this game, regardless of how brain dead it is to actually just respond to something. And this is because we have a lot of prizing on the line that is worth thousands of dollars, right? So when you have an incentive to slow play with a deck like Lin Lin, who heals a bunch, and then your opponent doesn't want to swing into this leader unless they hit a bunch of trigger bodies, which will be bumped up to 8Ks by the 10 cost Lin Lin, you're crapping all over the floor and you don't know what to do. Because now 35 minutes is up, your opponent is at 7 life, you're at 3, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I just lose. Like, it's not going to be fun in that regard. The deck has some merit to it, but it's a skill check deck. It's on Fraud Watch for me, but I could definitely see some people not calling out slow play when they should, and then they're going to have to deal with the time rules, and that's what effectively makes this deck bonkers. Alright, let's talk about Zebek. I think Zebek's up there. So, Zebek has a lot of things going for him, but there's some inherent counters, such as Red Ace, that I think need to be addressed. The reason I think Red Ace counters Zebek so well is because he goes so tall, so fast in comparison to Rocks being able to keep up. He just doesn't have the counter, despite the fact having, 2 different counter events that are 2Ks, as well as, the 10 cost itself, treating itself as a 2K. It just doesn't have enough, and there's some defensive capabilities with even the 6 cost Newgate, and even the 5 cost Lin Lin can bump your leader up. So you really do have more counter than previously thought. But again, you're going to have inherent weaknesses against decks that can go very tall and very aggressive, such as Red Ace. You're going to have trouble with some weird off-meta decks. Like, I'm talking OP08 King is here for a reason. Basically, you're weakened to removal. So if you come across removal-based decks, that's going to be kind of bad for you. But other than that, you're doing fine. You're doing spectacular in this format, I feel. Not every matchup is going to be auto-win either, which is what I like to see from Rocks. It's a very skill-intensive deck that requires you to have deep knowledge on all your different matchups, because no win is going to be handed to you like Red Ace, in my opinion. So, Lucci and King. These are both removal-based strategies that were previously sidelined because they just sucked. They didn't have enough printed for them to make them relevant, but Lucci is kind of standing on legs right now simply because he can abuse the Elbath package, same as Sabo, and it leads to some interesting board states where they're abusing the 6-cost Loki, and King just ramps to all of its removal options. Plus, it has the leader effect to go Dawn -2 to reduce something by 2 on the board, which can allow you to abuse Hakai / Conquest of the Sea, both of your 10-drop Kaidos, or even just the removal Kaido, as well as 9-cost Black Kaido. So you just have a bunch of options to be able to delete Zebek's board with King, and maybe even Lucci has the same capacity. I haven't looked too deep into it, but I think these could be rogue options if you hit your good matchups. You're amazing. The problem is, Lucci and King probably have a lot of bad matchups. King specifically, I know, has a horrendous Linlin matchup. I swear to God, everything needs to go right in that particular matchup. Kaido could be a struggle for King, although you do have decent removal options against that deck as well. Shanks is a pretty bad matchup for King. You're just not good into a lot of different decks. This is a silver bullet deck. If you hit Zebek, you're just winning every game because Zebek just cannot establish a board, and that's a problem for them. Let's talk about Katakuri. I love this deck. I play this deck. Played it in OP16.5 format. I'm not so sure it can keep up with the rest of the meta. It's good. It can hit up some really decent matchups, but if you come across others, holy hell does this deck suck. And if you can't hit your curve every game, you're gonna feel it, which leads to some problems with consistency in a competitive tournament run. So in confidence, I can put him as rogue. Anything above that, like you could say he's bottom of can top. Let's talk about Panel. Panel is actually a really solid deck. Surprisingly enough, having access to Gamma Knife is still broken, considering all the other shit that he can do between Amaragan, El Thor, K10, like, just name it. This deck never dies, it seems. Black Yellow Teach. I think Black Yellow Teach can top. Black Yellow Teach lost a lot of steam in this upcoming meta, but he does have a good Red-Green Luffy matchup, which I'm also going to put can top. So these two decks are pretty much polar opposites of one another. One is about redirect, one is about tanking everything, and the thing that makes Red-Green Luffy good is that he can absolutely top. In fact, I could even say he will top a major event. The issue is whether or not Teach is in them, and Teach does have some decent matchups even into this upcoming meta, but he's really just a silver bullet against Luffy. And if Red-Green Luffy ever became too popular, we're going to see more Teach players. So it's like this weird equilibrium effect where they cancel each other out, and they're in this in between where they can top or they would top. It's just a matter of coin flip. I think Pudding is rogue. So whatever I said about trigger bodies not being particularly great, this deck can abuse the new Big Mom package that is for yellow. So they can play a bunch of trigger bodies. They have a new 10-cost Linlin where they can make you burn a life or heal. So it actually kind of works better in Pudding than the actual Linlin deck. And I think it'll have a chance here and there, but at a serious major tournament, this is serious. This is the underdog. This is the underdog. It's not going to immediately kick butt. It might even have horrendous matchups into some of these leaders. I don't know, but I know for a fact that this new Big Mom package is going to be in a lot of different decks, such as Boa Hancock. This deck scares me, okay? The reason it scares me is it's not just a can top deck, it's a will top major event deck. And there's two reasons for it. One is the Kuja Pirate package. 2 is the Big Mom package. How are you ever swinging into this leader again? All of the trigger bodies for the Big Mom package just play themselves. And while they are only 4K bodies, they can be bumped up with Gorgon Sisters for 5K swings very easily, very fast. And even then, you have access to the 10 cost mob so that you can heal again. This deck is stupid ignorant. You gain card advantage whenever you play out a Kuja Pirate from trigger. They can't really hit into your board if it's Kuja Pirate because then they burn a life. Boa is very annoying as a deck, and I think it's going to be strong as a deck. Nami is, oddly enough, I think Nami is a rogue deck now. And if it hasn't been mentioned before, none of these are in any particular order, but Nami just struggles into a lot of different matchups these days. Being a 7K lead defensively with very little counter, I don't know, there might be some innovations where this can top though. You did get new cards in the form of the 5-cost Charlotte Linlin, the 3-cost Stussy Buckingham, and it's not particularly badly. It's the ultimate blue and yellow slop deck. You can have access to 4-cost Galdino, you have Grav Blade, you have 8-cost Teaches. You just have damn near everything that you can think of for this deck. But is it enough? We'll have to see. Not a whole lot of people are playing against this leader because it is pretty hated, but who knows, there might be something in the future. Purple Foxy. So let's talk about Purple Foxy. This is a deck that would seem fairly innocuous, as if it wouldn't be good at all in a meta like this. However, Foxy can counteract the Linlin leader effect and Zebek leader effect. Those are the only two it can counteract. However, if Zoro were to ever become a problem again, Foxy gains a lot of, stocks, right? I can't really say that this is a top performing deck. Maybe it is. Maybe it just craps all over Black Luffy, for instance. Against Red Ace, I can't imagine Foxy's very good. Red Ace seems to be a really strong deck, by the way. Rosinante. It can top. If it doesn't see any green matchups, it's golden. If it sees all the green matchups, you're losing every game just about. Between 3-cost Luna, the 10-cost Rush Shanks, if you see Mihawk, you might just auto-lose. I'm not even kidding when I say that. This matchup is miserable. But any green matchup is going to be more difficult for Rosinante now that they can't block her up and just wall up. And they're a 4-life leader instead of 5 life, so there's that. Yamato is... I feel... it's a rogue deck. It was a good deck in OP16. It's still a rogue deck in OP17. I don't think it's going to be anything past that. 8K unblockable swings sound good until you realize that Ace can sit as an 8K base, and this deck struggles against any deck that sits above at least a 6K. Red Blue Ace, this is actually a solid deck. Even into this upcoming format, being able to go the 8-cost Whitebeard event, that's cool and all, but Boa is one of your worst matchups as Ace, and it's not even close. So, it's a rogue tier deck. I think it'll have its moment to shine in certain places, but I wouldn't hold my breath too much for Ace, though. Sengoku Rogue or Locals Legend? Sengoku's Rogue. It got Aramaki. That's another target for your Admirals on the 8 Dawn turn. It can't be too bad. Lucy is a rogue deck. Any green matchups is going to ruin your wall, so there's that. If you don't hit the green matchups, you're golden. Same with like all of the other blocker decks, but the difference between Lucy and Rosie is that Rosie can heal, whereas Lucy cannot, so this automatically makes it better in certain matchups. Yuji Luffy is... honestly, I want to say Yuji Luffy is rogue. So if you don't hit Red Ace as a matchup, you're fine. The reason you don't want to see Red Ace, and this is a big reason, you cannot hit 8K leads at all. Okay, that's a bit of a lie. You can hit them with unblockable Boa, but they more than likely have counter. Not only that, they probably have the Bond Clay, like you as the Luffy player have Bond Clay, for when they go to an 8K base. But again, they probably still have counter. You see the problem here? It's not aggressive enough against Ace like it should be in the late game, and trust me, the late game's going to be a problem for you. I'm going to put Kuzan in Rogue. I'm leaning towards Locals Legend. Kuzan might have some decent matchups. Roger is Rogue. There's some weird instances where him being able to go as tall as he does might do the same thing as what Ace does, but as soon as you hit the full 10 Dawn on the board and you're able to play back-to-back 8 cost new gates, this leader gets massive as hell. But I'm not so sure that's a big benefit to it, because it doesn't abuse every new card from this upcoming set. Maybe it's just Rogue. It might be Locals Legend, but who knows. Black Croc. So Black Croc is Rogue because it doesn't inherently lose to the green strats. It can still get affected by them for sure, but I think the major problem with Croc is going to be the same thing that it's always had issues with, which is consistency and finding back-to-back 8 costs. And I will say this as a but. You get annihilated by Red Ace. I know I'm talking about Red Ace specifically a lot here, but you can handle Zebek. Zebek can play out some bodies, you can stun a couple of them, you can't stun Red Ace. They play a body, it's getting rush, your entire game plan is invalidated, and you're gonna cry about it. So, there's that. Kid's a stall deck. If it doesn't see green matchups, it can do some things, right? It's a stun deck, it's a stall deck, it heals. It got some really good support from the starter deck. I think it's okay. Zoro, I have a complicated relationship with this leader for this format. It can be okay. You have an abysmal Linlin matchup because your whole game plan is I'm gonna delete a body and then delete a life from you. Well, what happens when you delete the body and then you hit into Linlin's life and all of a sudden there's a trigger body that plays out? You may as well have not even swung into the board. Unless you play 5 cost Smoker and you cheated out off the 6 cost Mihawk, that's an option, I suppose. But it's struggling to keep up with a lot of the different meta decks. Maybe it has a place, but I think it's just a rogue deck. Same thing with ST21. So the problem with ST21 is it's not like RG Luffy where it gets access to both the really busted leader effect that RG has, but it also just doesn't have access to the same tools that Green would, so DMG, Luna, so on and so forth. It does have access to the new 7 cost Luffy, which basically acts as removal for the deck. Other than that, I don't see this deck having much going for it. Hell, it might even be Locals Legend / People's Champ. But I say that, and Red Luffy probably has a really good Zebek matchup because of how aggressive it can be early on and even into the late game. So maybe I'm talking out my ass here, but Red Luffy doesn't seem all that particularly great in this upcoming meta. Bello Betty. So Bello Betty does a few different things. One of the major ones is it just trashes a card, and all cards on board with the trigger gain 3000 power, I think. I can't really remember the leader effect. I just know that if it plays the new Big Mom package, it synergizes extremely well. Okay, like you don't even need to see 10 cost Linlin to get the benefit of the 4K bodies, and that is stupid to me. I don't think that Betty has a strong chance to come back, but it is a rogue deck. It'll come up probably at locals for some people, and they're gonna hate life because of it. Very quickly, we're gonna go over the locals legend / people's champ category. Again, this is something that is probably a pet deck of yours, but for whatever reason or another, there's a lot of struggle matchups or just flat out bad matchups that cannot keep up with the rest of the meta. Kobe, Enel, Bonnie, Brook, Koala, Luffy and Ace, Monkey D, Luffy, GP, Gecko Moria, Sakazuki, Bonnie, UP Luffy, Red Shanks this time, Smoker, better than I expected, but still probably a struggle into the better matchups, Yellow Monkey D Luffy, Kilgara, Sanji, Blue Buggy from OP17, Krieg. As much as I love you Krieg mains out there, all 3 of you, the deck is still bad, at least in this meta. It was good last format where UG dominated everything, but you're back to being on a shelf. Koziki Odin, the new stuff from the Zoro starter deck was pretty cool and all, but I don't know if it really pushed the needle for this. 09 Buggy, we got 3 cost Borsalino in the Kuzan starter deck, and it's still just an okay deck at best. Anya Bull, all this ramping for what? We're not really doing shit unless it's Kaido Linlin shenanigans, and even then, that's still terrible. 09 Marshall D. Teach, you're on your way out the door because you see green shanks, and you might just crap yourself because you kind of need blockers. Emu, there's a lot of stage hate now, especially in red and yellow, so Newgate got it, Lin got it. This deck automatically loses stonks because of it. And that's going to be the end of the video. Apparently there's a new tech in Mihawk that was discovered not even a day or two ago that involves Drekken, I think is the card. It's a 2-cost that basically pairs up with the 10-cost Shanks really well. So the new combo is this. 10-cost Shanks gets played during the 10 Dawn turn. Restand 2 Dawn to play this Drekken. Drekken pitches a copy of itself to blow up a rested unit on the board. You rest that unit in order to restand 3 and then hit the board with Luna if you have it. That alone is a disgusting combo that I think should not exist, because you could very easily pair that with a stronger event instead of Luna. Mihawk apparently just best deck in format. I don't know what to tell you. If you happen to like said video, go ahead and show it in the form of a like or a subscription. I'm really trying to get this channel off the ground, but working with my new editor, hopefully we can pump out some more content for you. Cheers.